If I was Kirk Cousins, the Jets would be probably number 1 or 2 on my priority list. And I can get into detail on that in another episode, but according to Colin Cowherd, this is not the case. If he were Kirk Cousins, the Jets would not be on his priority list. Why? Well, because we're focused on the path and we're going to make the past, sorry. And we're going to make all of these takes that are really lazy takes. They're more so just kind of sensational and narrative driven, but I'm not surprised. So I'm going to summarize it for you guys, and then I'm just going to kind of debunk it. So Colin Cowherd was basically saying the Jets are not a functional franchise, and I'm going to stop you right there. Here's the problem with this narrative. Franchises become functional with a stable quarterback situation, right? That covers up many wounds. The Colts right now, a lot of dysfunction going on behind the scenes. You wouldn't know it because they went from Peyton Manning to Andrew Luck. You get Kirk Cousins and you start winning. Nobody cares about what is going on in the past. You need to get that quarterback. Seattle was losing Super Bowls, or at least one. They at least lost one Super Bowl, I remember, to the Steelers, and they were not the talk of the town. They were not the quote-unquote standard, and everybody wanted to go there and everything else, Legion of Boom, all that stuff. They were not that. They had to start winning, and then they got to that point. So everybody, I mean, look at the Eagles. They just won, but they were a laughingstock before that. Why? Because they never got a ring. Now, they don't necessarily a laughingstock, but a lot of people tease them for that reason. You can't just assume a narrative about a franchise being terrible and then just plaster that on the franchise forever so that good players don't go there, because that's how they stay that way. The media keeps echoing this very lazy narrative that the Jets are just this dysfunctional little stepchild of the Giants, and then you're not going to see that team do well. Why? Because you win with talent, and if talent is just saying, well, I'm not going to that team because, well, they're the Jets. Okay, but let's talk about the players. Let's talk about the fact that they could have won a lot more games if they had had a competent quarterback there. Let's talk about the coach that a lot of people respect around the league. Let's talk about, I mean, what have the Jets done in the last 2 years that have been quote-unquote dysfunctional? I mean, Rex Ryan leaves town and all of a sudden the circus is gone and goes to Buffalo, and that's evidential. You can look at his time there and how it was all words. But here's the difference. Buffalo's media wasn't as big to overblow every single story. So I just don't like this concept of let's just lazily, the Jets, I wouldn't go there. It doesn't go to a team. It's not going to get better. So you're just saying basically they're not good and they never will be because I don't think that you should go there so that they become better. But if a team just kind of strikes gold on somebody and becomes good, all of a sudden it's like, oh, yeah, you should definitely go there, which makes sense. But you have to go deeper than just saying, I wouldn't go to the Jets. No, I'd go to a team that's a quarterback away. Okay, so let's say you go to a team that's a quarterback away. All right, no, let's do it. If you don't win a Super Bowl, then all of a sudden what happens? You're not just a quarterback away. Now you find yourself in a situation where a lot of questions are being asked. Kirk Cousins was supposed to be the missing piece. Why haven't we won a Super Bowl? Why haven't we made it to a Super Bowl? You get to maybe a playoff game win, and that is seen as a disappointment. You go to Denver and just win a playoff game, then all of a sudden you start seeing people start looking a little backward. They say, they were 5-11 for a reason. Maybe the roster isn't as strong as we kept saying. Maybe we weren't really digging deep into this. Minnesota Vikings. If you don't win a Super Bowl on that team, they went to an NFC championship game with Case Keenum. If you're Kirk Cousins and you're quote unquote the missing piece, you better win that Super Bowl or at least get to the Super Bowl. If you don't do that, anything less is a failure. No pressure though. See what I mean? I honestly think that there's a lot more to this than people are just giving. They're just being very lazy in their takes, and I don't think that's. Here's the thing. Don't just say, oh, a team's been bad in the past, therefore. No, look at the team, measure the roster, look at what they can do. I mean, the Jets have a ton of cap space. They can sign Kirk Cousins and buy the freaking White House if they wanted to. I mean, they're fine. Some people have pointed out that the Browns could do it. And I'm not going to contradict. Hey, listen, they could build something around Kirk Cousins, but here's the thing. You got the first pick. Which means, well, then all of a sudden you're like, well, we could get that quarterback. And I'm not trying to just say, I'm just being honest here. If I was Kirk Cousins, I'd look at New York's market and say, if Joe Namath's shadow is not as long. I mean, honestly, he could pass several of those of the benchmarks that Namath left, because Namath was only able to really be healthy for like 3 years, honestly. And I know that's not technically what it was, but I mean, 3 years was his window, right, that they gave him with his knees. His knees were terrible. So, I mean, essentially, Kirk Cousins can be a legend in New York. Could he be a legend in Cleveland? Yes, but here's the problem with Cleveland. You don't know how long that coach has. You really don't. And I'm still skeptical about Cleveland. I really am. But could that be cool? Sure. I think it would be kind of cool. I'm just saying that the expectations aren't as heavy on you as well. And I think Kurt said, I want to win. Well, can Cleveland win in the future? A lot of people would say yes. I would say I'm skeptical. They say, oh, no, there's pieces there. You're a lot more than a quarterback away from winning. If they're just trying to get, why don't you just sign a Tyrod Taylor and then draft your quarterback? You're in the position to get Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold can be at least what Kaiser was and win you some games. Why not get a young prospect? I really think that would be wiser, because the Browns have the draft to look to. Jets don't have that. Jets, they're the 6th pick. There's 3 guys in front of them that want a quarterback. They are desperate for Cousins because they know he's a franchise quarterback. He's out there. If I'm Denver, I'm saying, well, listen, we gotta rebuild. They keep saying, we're gonna reload through the free agency. You're not gonna have money to reload. You need to rebuild. Accept it. I mean, and here's the thing. You can still rebuild and get a QB that could get you in a Super Bowl. If you're a quarterback away, sign Case Keenum. I mean, the guy took the Vikings that far. You could sign Tyrod Taylor. Those are good quarterbacks they could manage the team. They'd be fine. You won it with Peyton Manning, and then you did fine with Trevor Siemian doing almost around the same amount of work, if not a little bit better than Peyton that year. I don't think you're a QB away. So, Colin just kind of throws out, these teams that would be better because of management. And I'm just saying, hey, listen, he even said this in his previous thing. This is why I think he's just kind of a prisoner of the moment. You look at the coach at Denver, and you're not really thrilled about that. He took a 9-7 team, and previous to that, a Super Bowl winning team, and went 5-11 with almost the same roster. Okay, I'm not thrilled about this guy. Todd Bowles took a roster that even Colin Cowherd said was going to be 0-16, and he won 5 games, and he almost won more than that, but if he had a better quarterback, they'd be fine. And most people will conclude Todd Bowles with a good quarterback equals wins. It's just, look what he did with Fitzpatrick, and that guy's hardly as clutch. He's more of a he's a shotgun shell, He might get it, he might not. Kirk Cousins has shown to be clutch. There's evidence of this. Game-winning drives. He's got a lot of them. Look at him in Seattle. I'm just saying, the guy can do it. And here's the thing. Jets have taken free agent quarterbacks with experience, and they have won with them. They are really good at picking up veterans to make them win. Ryan Fitzpatrick, Josh McCown. Who would have thought that Josh McCown would have had the year that he did? But he goes to the Jets, and it happens. There's something about older veteran quarterbacks going to the Jets and being successful. This is exactly up Mac's alley. And listen, the guy tried to trade for him in 2015 for Kirk Cousins. I'm just saying, I think my take is a little more in-depth than Colin Cowherd's. And one last thing that I want to get on is he was talking about Brett Favre when he was with the Jets and how he didn't do so well. I don't understand if he actually paid attention to that season or not. I think it's one of those takes where I think he just kind of was like, oh yeah, look at this. He might have Googled it or something, picked it up and said, look at this. He had as many touchdowns as he did interceptions. Here's my problem with that. Brett Favre was injured and continued to play. Like, it wasn't the Jets that messed him up. He decided to continue to play while he was injured. Injury affects your game. I don't care if Colin doesn't believe that. That's just common sense. So this is not some kind of smoking gun reason why. See, the Jets mess up people. Here's why this makes no sense, though. When he's saying that the Jets messed up Brett Favre, he's implying that quarterbacks that go to the Jets are going to automatically be less and their potential is destroyed. Now, here's one problem with this. The first thing is his second year with the Vikings wasn't as good. So I'm guessing he shouldn't go Kirk Cousins shouldn't go to the Vikings, and I'm guessing that this whole argument is flipped on its head because he had one great year in Minnesota, and he had a bad year with the Jets. But here's another problem with this. Ryan Fitzpatrick did great with the Jets, had a career year. Not as good as Brett Favre. Josh McCown had a great year, career year with the Jets. Not as good as Brett Favre. Really, his argument has no merit. He points to an injured Brett Favre year when he was with the Jets, and he says, see, the Jets just mess up people. I mean, the Jaguars, just because they have Coughlin, all of a sudden, all of their past is erased. The fact that they were in the top 5 of almost every draft for years and they have one good year, why was that? If we just would have said, don't go to the Jaguars, because they're not good, see how that would have messed things up?
Colin Cowherd can do better than this. And I know he can because he made a really good take when he was on his other show. And he made the case that Denver was kind of declining. And they had statistics and everything else, and the Jets were showing signs of going upward. They've got the cap space. They've still got the draft capital. They've got everything that you would want from Cleveland, but they've shown a little bit more of a tendency to win and be winners. And you're in the New York market. Oh, and let's not forget that he's familiar with Bates. How many people were saying, oh, yeah, Kirk Cousins and Shanahan, those guys are like a done deal. Why? Because he has familiarity with them. He really likes them. Well, he really likes Bates, and Bates is from that tree. So I'm just saying a lot of people connected him to the 49ers just because of that and because they had the money. Well, guess what? His next best option as far as offensive coordinator would be Bates. And guess what? Bates is working with the quarterback. Not have they've got people they have to sign. And you're going to give up on Teddy Bridgewater's in that town? Really? What is reliable? I mean, seriously, you're going to give up on those quarterbacks? Denver's going to give up on Paxton Lynch after a year? That basically tells me that John Elway has a hard time drafting. So once the 2015 All-Star team retires, which to get the cap to get Cousins because of the Garoppolo deal, you might have to drop some of those 2015 players, and they're your best selling point. And again, with the Vikings, they're going to have to sign a lot of guys, not this year, but the year after. 30 mil? I don't know. 30 mil plus. Denver's going to have to get rid of the 2015 All-Star League. They're shopping Aqib Talib. You cannot deny that. And fans can talk about, in a best-case scenario, I think Denver could. No, this is reality. The reality is you're going to have to give up players to get Kirk Cousins, and then all of a sudden he's probably going to look at that roster and say, you know what? And this is my argument too. I think in Denver and in the Vikings, he can win with the first 2 years of his contract. He'd have a window. The last couple, he'd be in a rebuilding stage, especially with Denver. He'd be in a rebuild. John Elway would have to acknowledge it. And John Elway doesn't seem like he can draft that well. Nobody excites me from his drafts. And I do enjoy the Broncos. I do enjoy them. Kirk Cousins of the Broncos would be really cool. I think it would kind of be like the storyline that everybody expects, and it would make everybody kind of feel good inside, and they're going to make a run. But if they don't win a Super Bowl, all of a sudden, John Elway's faults in his drafting, in his team building, in his GMing, if you will be exposed. You're already dedicating so much cap to Kirk Cousins, and you're already having some of those all-stars get old, retire, get traded, walk in free agency. You already have a coach that's on the hot seat. Really, and you don't hear any of this from Colin. I'm just saying, Vikings have to sign some people the year after they would get Cousins, and they've got 2 very viable quarterbacks on the roster, and Teddy Bridgewater's is there. Their young guy. What happens with Kirk Cousins doing well? Did they trade Teddy Bridgewater? I don't know. So, and they're giving up on a guy just because he got injured? Don't let the past define it. I mean, honestly, like I said, the Seahawks were nothing until they won the Super Bowl. They were seen as, the Patriots were nothing until 2001. They were just losers. They choked in the big games. They weren't even the Bills. Okay, they went to 2 Super Bowls and lost. The Bills at least made 4 and lost all 4. Like, they were a laughingstock, but at least they weren't even the best laughingstock. Like, they couldn't even win in that. And all of a sudden, they're the standard. Don't let the past define what a team is. Don't be lazy. Subscribe and stuff to whatever this is on. Oh, and watch Watch our podcast, Taco Tuesday. Link in the description. Great stuff. Talk to you guys later.